just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray, for the Western press and the Western narrative, regurgitating the same old, every single day, without question. Please watch the first series, the first 2 episodes, the second series. Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Good evening, everyone. 1st of December. Now we've got Christmas. What do you think? What do you think of this? Fabulous, isn't it? The wedding cake, as the Italians call this wonderful building behind the Christmas tree. The wedding cake. Fantastic building, though. Il Duce has it built. Yes, it'll do. But anyway, we're here tonight. We've got this fella to talk about, and that. But first, this. And it's Gap Painting Services who sponsor every single Frank Carlyle podcast. Every single one of them, including our history one with the wonderful artist Anthony Brown. And this is what we do, you see. We try to bring the history of literature to the table. And everybody, surely, I know all the chat has, every one of you on the chat, you lovely people, have read books. And unfortunately, there are some who hasn't read a book. Nevertheless, Gap Painting Services, the fully time served, fully insured. And if you're in need of any decorating before Christmas, get them in. Give them a ring. That's all. Just give them a ring. And if you're an NHS worker, and if you're an elderly person or a couple, for that matter, get them in because you get a special discount. And if you don't fit into the categories, just ring them and just say, can you come down and give me a price? They'll give you the price without any obligation. That's Gap Painting Services, who sponsor every single podcast that I do. And there I am again. I suppose I'll go blurry. And we might do some of these, actually. Some of them. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? 1841. An engraving of George's Dock. And don't forget, George's Dock, where these people are looking at. Where these people are looking at. Or sitting down waiting for the ship to come in. So that they could get off. Is where the Liver building stands. And in the background there, you've got St. Nick's Church, the Sailors' Church, as they say. But anyway, excuse me. That's a bloody biscuit before, and you know the way you get a little crumb? And it's stuck at the back of your throat. It's me. See what you're being saying. Adet. Bonsoir, Monsieur Frank, Anthony, and chat. Really looking forward to tonight's show, especially your discussion on A Christmas Carol. Yes. Yes. Fascinating to read. Dickens has a lifelong devotion to helping the poor due to his own family's experience with the debtor's prison. This forced him to drop out of school as a boy and work. He actually worked in a blackening factory, which I'll talk about that a little later on, the debt. I know undoubtedly so will Anthony. And his biographer, Michael Slater, wrote the Dickens thought to create A Christmas Carol was a way to help, quote, help open the hearts of the prosperous and powerful towards the poor and the powerless. Lovely words. Lovely words. Says that by Michael Slater. Want to say to Franco and me and chatters, looking forward to tonight, says Toscana. Thank you, Toscana. Thank you. Great to have you with us. And my old mate Steve Mulholland. Good evening, Frank and Anthony. Good evening, Steve. And our little Amby, the Amby Dexters. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, Helen. And Stepan. Good evening, Frank. Is it Rome's altar, Della Patria behind you? Yes, it is. The Della Patria. Yes, it is. AKA the wedding key. What was it called that when built? It was called it because the Italians, the likes of the likes of Toscana and their family, the likes of Bella and their family, and the lovely Daniela. All Italians, it looks like a wedding cake. So hence the nickname, the wedding cake. I've been in there, I've been up there, I've been right to the top, looked over, fantastic. It's in the Piazza Venezia. That's where it's situated. The Piazza Venezia. And Lynn, even if Frank and Anthony and all the chat. Thank you, Lynn. Glad you joined us. And I'm going to bring this moaner on now. He's always moaning, this fella. And there he is. Look. Shall I bring him on or shall I leave him? Twiddling his thumbs. Twiddling his thumbs. No, here he is. Great man. Hey, let me.
You know what? I do not moan when I'm asleep.
That is very funny. But someone once says, "Brian's or that, so can you sleep?" I said, "Yeah, you're always moaning." So anyway, how have you been? How's you been your weekend?
Yeah. Oh, good. You have today's been Baltic and pitch black, so which is both kind of a problem if you're a painter.
Yeah.
But you have enriched today with our little chat, and there's images of Italy.
Yeah, certainly didn't I?
Where my head's been all afternoon. Yeah.
It's been great, hasn't it? You know, did you watch Florence and Rome?
Yeah. Got it.
Incredible.
Looked at it, love it. Absolutely. I mean, that we shouldn't have regrets in life. You know, we do what we can do, cope with what we can cope with, and then at a point. But that was a sadness to me that after being invited to Florence to show work, I couldn't go. And then here's you and I, two old friends, cynical old friends, who are not fazed by anything, but totally besotted with the real thing, and that's Florence. And I
It
look,
is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go on.
no, I just so look forward to getting there. Yeah,
Do you know when you watch what I've sent you,
yeah,
you get Santa Croce Church. Santa Croce Chiesa. Right, church. It's an incredible church. And inside there, you've got, I couldn't believe it what I was looking at. And they must have thought that it was a bit soft over the head, because I was just going over and touching these tombs, and the tombs of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Machiavelli, Dante. Incredible, incredible. And I was just touching them, trying to get as close to them as possible in my own little mind. That was,
yeah, of
and
course,
that's what I go.
because that's where it all started.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And that there was an older American. I went outside and I was sitting on a little wall, just contemplating what I've just been experiencing. And there
Yeah,
was this like couple sitting next to me on the wall, elderly couple, and they were American. And I heard them speaking, and I said, "Have you been into Santa Croce?" And he went, "No." I said, "You need to go in." I said, "You really need to go in, you and your wife, and have a look around." I said, "It's only a small church." I said, "But who's in there?" And I mentioned who was in there. And you know what he said? "I just want to go home." And the man, he said that he was on a 6-week tour of Europe. And I said, "But Santa Croce." And as I mentioned the names, Da Vinci, Michelangelo. And he said, "No." He said, "It's pointless to me. It's pointless." I said, "Did you go to England on your tour?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you go to see where Shakespeare, Stratford upon Avon?" And he went, "Yes." Waste of time. And all it did is rain. And this is, and I said to him, "What you do? What did you do in life? What were you? I thought he was going to say he was a machine operator or something. And he was the vice chairman, I forget what bank, retired vice chairman of this big bank. So that was typical American for you. I couldn't believe it, and he just said it's too old. I said, "What do you think of this piazza?" He said, "Too old. The whole of the place is too old. And I just want to get home. I just want to go home." I said, "How long have you been, away from your home?" And he said, 3 weeks. So he has another 3 weeks to go.
my God.
You see, this is the time. Europeans are so different from the Americans.
You know what? Sadly, there is no known cure for miserable,
People.
as we're going to enter into at some point tonight.
Yeah. But it's ignorance, isn't it? Ignorance of everything. Unfortunately, that these Americans have. I just go through these, what these have been saying. I'm sorry saying these. Um, Edward. Hello. Hello, Edward.
Hello, Edward.
Father, I don't know what you're saying there. I don't know what you're saying there, Edward. Um, and Jason says, Frank, sounds like your mate has skipped over to the webcam. I'll remote it on and fix it as soon as you see this. Will be 1 minute. Keep Anthony talking. You can't get him to stop. Keep him talking.
I know you can never shut him off.
I'll just leave it now because he's working on this thing.
He's doing, yeah, it's like a muffled sound in the mic, which he's going to correct. He is the.
I don't know how that happens.
No,
Is it
wasn't
fixed
me.
now? No, he hasn't. Yeah, has he fixed it? Yeah.
It's getting there. It sounded clearer.
Oh, well, it must be okay.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So you never heard what I was saying. I was saying all lovely things about you, and I'm not going to repeat them anyway.
Oh, we did hear what you said, yeah. And all those Dino tunes. We did.
Anyway, Ezra says, hello, Frank and Anthony. And Toscana. I hope you both get to Florence. Go together. I know how lucky I am that my family is from Tuscany and that my dad taught me so much about the area. He was from, the area he was from. Well, he came from Lucca, didn't he? And I've always wanted to go to Lucca, the home and birthplace of Puccini, because I love Puccini.
You can visit the house, can't you?
Sorry?
You can visit the house of the. Haven't they converted his house to like a museum?
Yeah.
Puccini.
Keep her playing up, says Edward. Oh, that's why he was trying to speak to her. And convince the Lloyds you're not winging it. I never wing anything, fella. Ever. Fucking ever. Stop that. Or I'll block you. The Piazza hosted the annual parade when the Medici wore the richest ever suits, and Simonetta Vespucci was elected the most beautiful that ever lived, says Stephen. There you go.
Wow. Thank you, Stefan. And forgive me, I owe you an email which will come through. Right.
It does sound better, says Edward. Thank you, Edward.
Yeah.
And Steve says, sounds better. No.
Yeah.
And Jason says, sorted. But anyway, getting back to this chap. A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
What did you think? I'm sorry there. I'm just going to go back to what Odetta said.
Yeah.
And what she said there, Anthony, was his biographer, Michael Slater, wrote that Dickens thought to create A Christmas Carol was a way to, quote, help open the hearts of the prosperous and powerful towards the poor and the powerless. And she says lovely words. That's unquote and lovely words.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think he did in his way. He would talk to people about how, because he was made aware. Obviously, he lived in London. He knew, and he more than anyone we know had a glimpse of the two sides of the coin, and he knew the poverty, and he knew how people struggled, and he also was aware of the ragged schools, which were schools set up to educate the absolute poorest of our society, the children. He was aware of that, but he felt that we needed, as a society, to do more. And for me, the big remarkable thing was, in his capacity as a writer, he'd reached a point where his latest book, Martin Chuzzlewit, was not selling well. He had all sorts of trauma at home. His wife was on their 5th child, and it wasn't an easy time. And his publisher, the way that they do, said to him, "Sales are slumping off of your latest book," which Dickens loved. He said, "We're thinking of docking you £50 a month because there's not much money coming in." So you can imagine how much mental trauma that would have, not that we were allowed to talk about that, but that would have given him. And it just kept on going. And the publisher said, "We need you to write something that the public want to buy. Not like that last one where they're struggling with." So he would go out, according to his sister-in-law, he would go out on long walks every night, 15 miles, 20 miles, and he would think, the way that you and I, we go out and we connect with people, and they join the dots and what we're thinking. Sometimes, it's a solitary thing, but more often than not, it's about just going for a walk and free up your mind away from the traumas. And within 6 weeks, he'd written a book, he'd commissioned the artist, and they were away. And it became one of the greatest books.
It just shows you, doesn't it? The likes of Dickens and all the stories, everything.
Yeah.
And yet he was being persecuted by publishers.
Yeah. Who owned the purse strings?
Well, this is it. It's like today. It's like the banks. I'm not getting into this, but it's like the banks. They can put pressure on anybody. Governments put pressure on you.
Yes.
Especially financial pressure. And this is the way it is. This is the way these work today. And it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But A Christmas Carol, the story, as the biographer, now he's not an autobiographer, as what Odette said. He's not an autobiographer. He's just a biographer.
Yeah.
The biography. I can write a biography about Charles Dickens. You can write one about anybody you like. The likes of William Blake. You can write about him. You can write about John Keats. You can write about Browning. You can write about anybody, Thomas Hardy, anyone. But it's not coming from them.
No.
Biography is from the lips themselves of the person you're actually writing about, or they're writing a ghostwriter.
No, absolutely. Right. And to add to that, it would be, you would make a perfect author for the biography of Charles Dickens and William Blake, because you are passionate about the work they achieved.
Yes.
There are some biographies. There's a lot of biographies out there on Dickens, and this is one of the series of illustrations which were by Mr. Leach, who Dickens himself approached to do the illustration, and also sat with, if I was going to illustrate your book, then you have every right, and every we know each other so well, you would sit with me and I would draw it, and you would say, "No, I don't want it like that. I want it this way, that way." Dickens did that with these drawings.
It just shows you, doesn't it? You know, like when you. I've said this before, Anthony. It's okay picking up a book and reading it, but there's an old adage, isn't it? Read between the lines. You know, when someone quotes something or whatever,
Yeah,
they say, "Oh, when you read between the lines."
yeah,
This is what people don't know. They just follow a story, and albeit that the story's good, they're not. They're not looking at the symbolism
no,
and the imagery below it as you're reading it.
yeah, and
Albeit that you think that, I'm sorry, but you think that the story's great, but they're not looking deeply at it.
no,
Go on.
no. And I was going to say the greatest director for me, one of the greatest exponents of that, exactly what you're saying, is your favorite novel, which is
Yeah,
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre. Yes, and you know, people were shocked when I told them that it was my favourite novel, simply because it was, they know that I love Dickens. They just know that, you know, he's my big hero in literature. And yes, um, when I said about the lovely Charlotte Bronte, see, what got me about Jane Eyre, I'm not going on about Jane Eyre, to be honest. It was a semi-autobiography of her.
Yeah,
She wanted to be Jane Eyre.
yeah,
She wanted to give something,
yeah,
especially education, to kids.
yeah.
And this is the underlying theme about it. You know, it's a fantastic and one of the greatest love stories as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
so
it's so,
Dickens, I'm sorry. Go on.
no, no. All I'm going to draw the parallel is for exactly the same reasons that Dickens composed this.
Yes, yes. So when you first ever read it, Anthony, when you first ever read it, what was your thoughts about it? Obviously you read it when you were a lot younger,
Yeah,
and the first time you're reading the Christmas Carol. What was your first thoughts?
it's a visual thing, Frank. It's like with a lot of Dickens' work. It's so descriptive. It's visual. You can close your eyes and you can be in what he's describing, and it was wow. It was wow. It wasn't. I didn't read it and think, oh, Christmas is a jolly good happy time. You know, I read it and thought, coming from my um, wonderfully normal Christmas background with the family and all the things that we now take for granted, when you read Christmas Carol for the first time, it's hard to unknow the stuff that we do, but descriptively it was brilliant. And that's what I even before looking at these pictures, you could see these pictures in your mind. And I like a redemption story. And I felt deeply for the people who were in the wake of making money.
Well, this is it. It's all about, as that Slater fella said, he's trying to invoke, shall we say, guilt upon the rest of society, the rich society, to
Yeah,
help the poor. Because people, I'm sorry to say this, but there's lots of people who have never read it, but they've seen the film, and the film is it's condensed into, for an audience to enjoy a pic. It's no use putting in, everything about A Christmas Carol. You just put the main themes, the main things about a man who, shall we say, sees the light. In the book, you've got the likes of Bob Cratchit, for example, and that was his clerk. And he has 4 children. And the 4 children, albeit he worked all hours. This is what you see, Bob Cratchit. He worked all hours, went home exhausted to try and keep the family together. Try and feed the family. And then on the Christmas, you see Cratchit as a, he's just a wonderful man. He's got a heart of gold. And there's the opposite of his boss, Scrooge. And in the book, he looks over at him and he's trying to get warm by a candle, because the fire, albeit that there's a coal scuttle and there's a fire grate, there's hardly anything in it because of the meanness. Now, as you're reading it, you know that Bob Cratchit couldn't afford coal. It meant that his family was have to go without. Yet he looks over and he sees this man, his boss, counting money, because it was a counting house that he worked in. And he's counting his money. He's counting his sovereigns. It's gold. And how much was a couple of scuttles of coal would cost? It wouldn't cost much.
No,
especially going back then, to the mid-19th century, to keep a fire going, to keep the place warm, because it was winter. It was snowing outside. The temperatures were below minus for it to snow anyway. Then you had 2 fellas walk in, and he goes in. One of them says to him, we're collecting to help the poor, to give them, some food, to give them meat over the Christmas. And he just looked at him, didn't he, and said, well, is it, why are you coming into me? Why me? Why ask me? Is the union workhouses still going? Oh, yeah, they're, in full swing. Oh, he said, I thought that, they closed down. And he keeps going on. Now, when he's writing this, he's thinking of himself as a young man. When a spendthrift father, he spent whatever money they had, and he goes to a debtor's prison because he couldn't pay the debt that he borrowed the money for. He couldn't pay it, so they go to a debtor's prison. And for 30 years, not for 30 years, I'm sorry, for years after the debtor's prison, because he went to a blackening factory. And the blackening factory, I'll have to try and explain. Houses, when they had a fireplace already in there, it was black iron. And you got this blackening stuff, and you polished it with this black, to make it shiny and pristine. And that was the blackening factory. And when he used to come home, he used to go back to the prison. He used to wash his hands And by the time that the debt was paid off and they moved out, Charles Dickens, from that time on, always looked at his hands. Always looked at his hands, and he washed them, because what he seen on his hands was the blackening that he worked with. And he washed his hands no less than 30 times a day.
Yeah.
He just kept washing his hands. Now, what that reminded me of was Macbeth, after he committed regicide, the most heinous crime, killing a king. And he said, didn't he? He looked at his hands and he said, the blood on his hands, that is, and he said, all these oceans of Neptune cannot wash away this evil deed. To the contrary of what his wife said. Yeah. And she said, because she seen the blood, but she only seen a spot. And she just kept saying, out, damn spot. Yeah. So you see the contrast between those two, and yet the contrast between Dickens and the blackening factory.
This is a great emotional journey that you can't comprehend what he would have been going through when he was starting to do all right. He was earning money, doing the thing he loved, and he was very, very good at. There was mass of people who appreciated what he did. And then his publisher said, we're not making enough money, so we're going to find you some money, and you write something good so that people want to buy. If that's not tremendous pressure, I don't know what is, and he's back, he's thinking, I am not going to go back to trying to sell a couple of pages of a story. I will create something, and we're left.
Why did he choose Christmas?
I think there's a couple of things. I think in Victorian times it was starting to be talked about again. The idea, because carols and stuff like that stopped for many years. And at this point, there was talk about them coming back. Queen Victoria and Albert had started the tradition of a tree. So it's almost like any one of us can have Christmas in our own home. But no one really did. And then the very virtues of Christmas, the have a dance, have a drink, or something to eat, that we still do today, I think was neatly wrapped up by Dickens. And the entire public, global public, said, wow.
Well, what you've got as well, Anthony, is the Prince Regent, not the Prince Regent, the Prince Consort, Albert, Victoria's husband, when he decided to bring a Christmas tree in and decorate it. And it was the first time anybody, but it wasn't like the likes of me and you, who was in the street begging. We never seen it. But the likes of the rich, they seen this Christmas tree at Buckingham Palace, all decorated, and wow, what's this? So Christmas really started with him.
Yeah.
And all the festivities. Now, I'm not saying all the festivities, but as you said, quite right, that, Christmas carols had stopped. And they did stop. And then this Christmas tree, then all of a sudden, you had the greatest Christmas story ever written. ever written. Now, how many books would be given as a Christmas present this year of A Christmas Carol? It's incredible.
It
It's
is.
incredible, and still printed today.
Yeah. Well, it was released on the 19th of December, but by Christmas Eve, it had sold out.
Yeah.
So they made more, and then they made more. There has never been a time since where it's been out of print
No,
or not been printed every
no.
year. Even now in the digital age.
And when you see that, Marley's Ghost,
Yeah.
and that's pivotal.
Yeah.
That's pivotal for what Michael Slater said, his biographer,
Yeah.
about, trying to, what it was, what Dickens wanted to do. He wanted a very harsh beginning.
Yeah.
A very harsh beginning. He wanted a middle where you're actually questioning him.
Yeah.
Then he has a very mellow, happy ending.
Yeah.
But the harsh reality of the beginning of the novel was the meanness. And the first vision, shall we say, the first ghost to appear was Marley. And it frightened him.
Yeah.
It frightened him. And he just ran in and he was trying to say, no, I must have indigestion, I'm not I'm not seeing this. And when he seen Marley come in chains, now, what we think of chains is, someone wrapped up in chains is a prisoner.
Yes.
And that's what you've got to look at, because what do you think Marley was a prisoner of?
His own greed.
Is greed. Is greed.
Yeah.
And that's what it was all about. And every link on that chain was his greed, his life. Because as you see at the very beginning of the book, you see Scrooge counting his money.
Yeah.
And that's what Marley did.
Yeah.
They were very, very mean. All the workers that worked for him, including Bob Cratchit as clerk, were on a pittance.
Yeah.
Were on a pittance. And it's like everything else. He just couldn't write about, like, a banker, for example. He couldn't write about a banker. He couldn't write about an aristocrat. He couldn't write about any of these people. But what he wrote about, because he had to choose who he was going to write about. Like, Scrooge could have been an aristocrat. People wouldn't have believed that. He could have wrote about a banker. People wouldn't have believed that, because people borrowed off the banks. Do you see what I mean? So he wasn't going to give them a bad name. But what he picked on, and it was sublime actually, was a businessman. A businessman. Because he knew that businessmen, albeit that they were religious, by the way, every time they knew that they were going to die on the deathbed, they always made a will to leave money to the poor so that they could go into heaven. But through their lives, they never gave a penny to anybody. They walked past them.
No.
They seen them as vermin.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask Jason there. I'll tell you what I mean. Jason is the any way, I hope he's listening, that you can put the Malthus speech out, the Reverend Malthus, please. I'll say, I think this will be very appropriate what he did, why he wrote this about businessmen and about the church. Remember Blake, as the hapless soldier sighs, as as blood runs down palace walls and the blackening church appalls. So the church, they had something to do with it as well. They ignored the people.
Yeah.
And it was St. George's Church here in Everton, in Liverpool, that actually built an aisle for the poor to go into, because the poor weren't allowed to go into it. It's like the poem, The Chimney Sweeper. A little black thing among the snow, crying, weep, weep in notes of woe. Where are your father and mother say? They have gone up to the church to pray. While that little child, a little chimney sweeper, 4 years of age, was out working in the snow, freezing cold, asking people if they wanted the chimney sweep, while his parents were in the church, keep him warm. And this is what he was getting at, Dickens.
Yeah.
Especially in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I'll try and get that myself, the Malthus speech.
Yeah.
And I think he must have seen that, Dickens. And I think he looked at it and said, yeah, I'm going to do something about this. Because that was actually, this was in 1801. Or was it 1794? I'm not quite sure, this Malthus speech, when he gathered the poor around. And Dickens must have known about that. Yeah. He must have known about that.
Because that must have been, that's the intent of all of them, to undermine, squash down the poor. Certainly Dickens, the wonderful, wonderful genius thing of Dickens is that he observed and he saw a lot, and it came out in his books. I mean, there's even that scene there with Marley. There's lots and lots of different snippets of historical and biographical information. Some would be trustworthy and some wouldn't. But basically, when Dickens was on his American tour in 1841-42, he was invited to a penitentiary where he saw men being walked around in chains, so they were not free. And that image stayed with him because he felt that was horrific. And obviously, so much other stuff. There's a wonderful, I'd like to think it's true that Dickens read something that your great ancestor Thomas Carlyle wrote.
Yeah.
And it was on the positive of his workhouse speech. And it was about, is there no care? Is there no hospital? Is there no... It's all about helping people. And Dickens turned that and said, are there no workhouses? So that's the goodness and the greed.
And no treadmill, he said.
Yeah.
Because you could pay your debts off by a treadmill. It was mad. It was crazy. The way the law was at the time. But in I'm just seeing if Jason. There it is.
Oh,
Thanks, Jason. I've got to read this, people. I have to read this. And this is the vice of pauperism. And the Reverend Malthus, the law of population demanded the total abolition of all present parish laws. And that applies to today, to what the Labour government and Rachel Reeves is coming out with. It's
yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. Now, this was written, I'm sure it was written in 1801. Now, I'm sure, as my name is what my name is, that Dickens knew about this. Now, listen to this. We grant you poor a right to exist, but only to exist. The right to multiply you have not, nor the right to exist as befits human beings. You are a pest, and if we cannot get rid of you as we do other pests, you shall feel at least that you are a pest, and you shall at least be held in check. I kept from bringing into the world other surpluses, either directly or through inducing in others laziness and want of employment. Live you shall, but live as an awful warning to all those who might have inducements to become superfluous. And I think Dickens must have known about that particular. He must have done.
To me, that's a hate speech. But as you know, and then we go back just to before Dickens had written this, and he's put on orders by his publishers. We're going to dock your money. We're not going to give you any money. And Dickens knew the horrors of that. He was no way near a bad person. For when someone says, and I've done it to you and I, and many of our chat have said, Frank, I'm not going to pay you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I'll give you the £5. I said 500, but I'll give you 5. And this is now. And the thought that we would have to go and seek help, and you're faced with that. Wow, just.
Well, when you look at this, though, if we cannot get rid of you as we do other pests, meaning cockroaches and rats, that's what it means. You shall feel at least that you are a pest, meaning that you are a cockroach and you are a rat. That's what you see, in Oliver Twist. When you read Oliver Twist, I don't mean adapted or anything. When you read it, he's got hold of Fagin, and the descriptive writing is of a rat.
Yeah.
The descriptive writing of Fagin is a rat.
Yeah.
So, again, when you get the likes of Malthus saying this to people, he gathered them around. They thought they were going to be fed. And this is what he said to them. This is what he said to them. So you go back to A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
You go back to that. And you go back to those two gentlemen who said, is there any way that you could get... No, there isn't. Because he experienced the debtor's prison himself.
Yeah.
And these people, these businessmen, if you owe money, they never experienced a debtor's prison. in their lives, but they would rather see you in a debtor's prison to pay off your debt.
Well, this heavily underlines the stigma of poverty and working class people. And even today, when people have got 2 and 3 jobs and they're not paid enough money to pay the mortgage on their house or their property, and so they're labelled as that.
Well, I'm going to leave you with this, then we'll get back to the Christmas Carol afterwards, because we have to do the middle, then we have to do the end. And it's Jason, and he asks you this. Anthony, you can think about this during the break. Anthony, if you had an opportunity to illustrate any book, which one would you choose?
Wow. That's a big question for a little brain.
I think you'll come up with an answer.
Wow. It's to get behind something that Dickens did with his work. Why are you doing that book? He wasn't doing that book to make loads of money, because I want to keep a stack of money coming in. Although we unfortunately all need money to pay the people who demand money from us.
Do you know what book I'd choose, me, if I was an artist? Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre is a really powerful one visually, because you can see it in your head as you're reading the which is the beauty of any Dickens book.
It's the looking up at the elite. Then it's the looking down at the elite.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of Jane. But also it could be said of Great Expectations.
Yes.
When Magwitch grabbed hold of him, came from behind, and just grabbed him and turned, grabbed him by the ankles and turned him up, shaking him to see if he has any money. This is at the very beginning of the book. Yeah. And this is how Dickens is so wonderful, because he turned Pip's life upside down as a young lad.
Yeah.
And his life came upside down.
Is that he knew the importance of introducing a visual, even though it might only be 4 or 6 illustrations across a book, because as you said, and as you started the show, some people don't have the capacity to think visually.
No.
They don't know how to read within the lines. So the more you put in front of them, then they say, "Oh, I get it. He was a big, horrible, mean guy," and and that's how people are harnessing.
Well, when we started off, didn't we, Anthony, with Scrooge?
Yeah.
Marley, the 2 gentlemen asking for money.
Yeah.
And his clerk, who was sitting in the office freezing.
Yes.
Working all hours for a pittance to keep his family going.
Yeah.
And this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And as it goes, but we'll go on to that after the break.
Yeah. And I will have an answer for Jason after the break.
The Anglican Cathedral is the most noticeable building in Liverpool for its sheer size. Yet, there are things that are totally unnoticed. When people visit this magnificent cathedral, what they fail to notice is the actual grave of its architect, Giles Gilbert Scott. It's with great anticipation of going into the cathedral that they just simply walk over his grave. Earlier on, we were outside the town hall with Giles Gilbert Scott's 2 Grade 2 listed telephone boxes. Have a look at the third. Follow me. Here we are inside. Let's find that third telephone box. Here we are. And you know what? There are not many Grade 2 listed structures inside a Grade 1 listed building, and this is the third telephone box in the collection. Every cathedral has a symbolic mouse, and the Anglican Cathedral is no exception, and it's very difficult to find unless you know where it is. This is the Earl of Derby's tomb, and the mouse rests here, and there he is. The reason why it's shiny is because when people visit, they actually rub it for luck. Normally, this place, the gantry, is out of bounds to the general public, but we have special permission to show a real Liverpool unnoticed inside the cathedral. What people don't realise about this wonderful stained glass window is that the liver buildings was used as a template by the glazier, because if the window wasn't there, you would see the liver, and there it is. Unfortunately, we have to leave the Anglican Cathedral now because I think a service is starting, but we need to go back outside to see another magnificent Liverpool unnoticed. And here we are. Just take a look at this. Don't be fooled, we're not in ancient Greece, we're actually in the city centre of Liverpool. This is the finest miniature Greek Doric temple in the world. Its architect, John Foster Jr., wanted his own Parthenon on his own Mount Olympus, and you can see why. Unbelievably, people don't even notice this. They simply walk past it. Incredible.
Beautiful.
Just shows you, doesn't it? We've got this behind us here.
Yeah.
And that's huge. But you put the Anglican Cathedral next to that, and that's dwarfed. The wedding cake. It's actually dwarfed. And to think that we have such wonderful buildings in Liverpool, such as the Anglican, but we also have, which I think is fantastic. A lot of people don't like it actually, and that's the Catholic Cathedral. But what's in there? I showed Rita Tushingham around there. One of the guides went, grab hold of him, me.
Yeah.
And I just seen this like woman coming towards me, small woman. And when she came up, she said, "Are you Frank?" And I went, "Yeah." I said, "Are you Rita Tushingham?" She said, "Yes." And she said, "I was asked to go over to you to show me around." And I showed her around. And I showed her the Stations of the Cross by Sean Rice. And I showed her one, just like I showed her them all, but this one stood out. And as I was looking up, and I said, "Have you noticed, Rita? You're looking up at that, but he's looking up at you." And she said, "Yes. Yes, he is." She couldn't get over it. Then I showed her the stained glass windows, and where the altar is, in the middle, and above the altar, you've got the crown of thorns, and that's what I explained to her. And I said, "Look at the splashes of red on the, it's supposed to be blue sky, which represents blue sky." I said, "They're the splashes of blood as they forced the crown of thorns." And pointing at the crown of thorns, over the altar. And she said, "Thank you. I never knew that." And I don't think the guides knew it as well, to be honest. But it's things like that get to people. To be honest, when there's things pointed out, and it's just like the Anglican Cathedral. I didn't know whether I said in there. I know I did say it once. Whether it was cut, I don't know. Where I said about the Whispering Arch. The Whispering Arch.
Yeah. No, I don't remember it in that section. I know you've done it before.
Yeah, well, because, and I did say, how many proposals of marriage was there, by fellas, and the girlfriends. "Will you marry me?" Going around square.
Absolutely.
Or just
yeah. It's almost poetical in these declarations of love.
Exactly. It's a fantastic church, to be on a fantastic building. But let's get back to Mr. Dickens and A Christmas Carol, eh?
Yeah.
Got to thank Jason for all that, absolutely amazing. And we've got now, I'm sorry, go on.
Absolutely thank Jason for all of this. And this would have been a tremendous book. I'd have loved to have illustrated any of Dickens, to be honest, but this, because it's so visual when you're reading it, it paints the pictures in your mind. And
I'll tell you one set of poems you'd illustrate, you'd love to, and that's William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Fancy illustrating every one.
Yeah. And no punches with it, just
no punches.
As dark a subject as it is.
Yes.
Like our James William Carling did for The Raven.
The Raven. Yeah, The Raven indeed. And it's things like that. It's the illustrations, and as I said about this, Anthony, you know, the links. And what he's actually showing Scrooge, his ex-partner, is these links you are making for yourself, but he takes no notice.
Yeah. Yours will be worse. Yours will
Yes.
be more.
Yes. And
And
there
it's
you
the
have.
ghost
Yeah.
of Christmas present.
Yeah. And there's the feast. And the feast, he doesn't even have a feast, Scrooge. He doesn't have a feast whatsoever. He goes home and he has gruel before he goes to bed. He's got all that money. He's being invited by his nephew to a dinner and entertainment. He's got no wonderment in his head. He's got no imagination in his head.
He's denied it all, hasn't he? His beloved sister dies, and
Giving him
then
birth.
that's like, do not remind me of that. So it's all gone.
Yeah, because he walked away, didn't he, at the birth?
Yeah.
He walked away from her. And, you know, when she was dead, because he loved his sister. He adored his sister.
Yeah.
And yet he totally, because of this, his nephew, he blamed him for her death.
Yeah.
He blamed her. He blamed him for her death. She'd still be alive today only for you. So he just banished him out of his life. Albeit, now again, what people won't think of is that the nephew has his mother's traits, meaning she had the love of her family, her immediate family, including her brother, who was Scrooge.
Yeah. She had the kindness.
Go.
She had the kindness, and the inwardly and outwardly beauty for people.
That's right, because remember when he was stuck in his school? He was stuck in a school and it was Christmas. And she came to get him. She said, you're coming home. You're coming home with me. He said, but it's Christmas and I'm usually here. No, you're coming home with me. And he was going to spend Christmas with his sister, his immediate family, for the first time. He was going to be happy, which he was happy, by the way. That made him happy.
Yeah.
So what made him turn into a miser, do you reckon? Now, don't forget, this is a story of, it's not, you grow into these things. And it was the death of his sister.
Yeah. I think his thing was to be good at something, as we all do in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget the value of the people and things around us. You concentrate on one thing. You devote your life to that being the best. He wanted, money became, as we know, it's almost biblical. Money is the root of all evil, and we know it is. You know, we know it is. But
we know it is today, don't we? But it doesn't really apply to today. As we say, you know, literature is so important because it's telling us a thing. And we just think it applies today, but it doesn't. It's applied in the past.
Yeah.
It's applied in the past, the likes of this miserly Scrooge fella and the greed of these people. the Maltese people, ignoring what was in front of them.
Yeah.
And they seen them as pests. As Malthus said, you will be a pest. We'll view you as a pest. And they were no better than cockroaches or rats. And that's the way they viewed them.
Yeah.
And this is why Scrooge, this is why his nephew, as I said, had the traits of his sister, because albeit that Scrooge never gave him a penny, because he was struggling. He was a struggling man himself.
Yeah.
He was newly married. He loved his wife. Yet Scrooge would never help him financially.
Yeah.
Albeit it was his nephew. It was the son of his daughter, of his sister, whom he adored, he loved. And this is the miserly. But why did he turn into what he was? Because don't forget as well, as he was working, as a young man. Remember Fezziwig?
Yeah.
Well, he worked for Fezziwig, and what was Fezziwig? He was a businessman who looked after his workers. Go on, Anton.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. He was a businessman, but he also had compassion, and he also had the emotional bond, and he treated young Ebenezer as a son.
Yes. And every other worker as well. And he always had Christmas parties.
Yeah.
He opens they just stopped work, and everybody enjoyed themselves in the office.
Yeah.
They all enjoyed themselves. He had music. He had everything. He had a bit of a feast on as well.
Yeah.
And most probably gave them a bonus as well for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, how does he become a miser? Have you got any idea, or have you got your own ideas?
I think there's a few things. I don't think he was emotionally matured. So his sister died.
Yeah.
Saw that as a betrayal in some way. His girl that in his way he loved said, listen, I'm fed up. It's either we spend a life together or you count your money. And
that's right, because she actually said, you've got a heart of gold. Meaning your heart has turned into gold. Not
That's
gold as a beneficiary to others, but gold, that's, he's keeping everything. If you know what I mean. He's just going to keep everything that he earns.
No.
And he looked at life then, after losing his sister, because of the birth of his nephew. He looked at that girl who was like his sister as well, benevolent, nice, generous.
What a life they could have had.
What a life they could have had. So when that fizzled out, he just looked at himself and said, well, that's it. Why should I, look at the world differently? Why should I look at the world? Why should I empathize with the world? And then he became a fella named Dawkins. He got him a job, didn't he? He asked for him. And he went to work for him, who was an embezzler. He embezzled the firm that he was working for. Not him, not Scrooge. And this is where he met Marley. And Marley, he was another fella who was just looking after himself. He was just looking after himself, just like Scrooge was. This is why you see the chains and the links and the greed. So the pair of them who took over the firm, they bought the firm because he embezzled, and it was to keep him out of jail. It was to keep him out of not a debtor's prison, but proper jail. If he didn't pay, what was owed. So they paid what he was owed. They became the firm, and they just kept a tight rein on everything that was coming in and out. And the pair of them became misers.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give anything away, nothing. Albeit that, you could say that they were millionaires in their own right. And when Marley died, he benefited the lot. He got all of Marley's wealth.
Yeah.
He inherited it.
Yeah.
Because Marley wasn't married or anything. He just kept saving and saving and saving. Now, don't forget, they were counting houses. So everything that was in that safe or whatever they kept it in, the locked drawer, now became Scrooge's. So he doubled his wealth at on the death of Marley.
Yeah.
And it became more apparent that he was going to become more greedy. And he still looked at his clerk as a worker, that's all, a worker.
Yeah.
But he worked so hard, keeping the figures right on spot.
And this is where the emotions touch, and Dickens knew they would touch us, the readers, because he describes Cratchit's family, his hardships, and of course his young boy, Tiny Tim.
Yes.
And the only sense, smidgen of compassion you see in Scrooge is when he asks the ghost, what will become of the little boy?
Yeah. And he said, didn't he, I just see a chair in the corner, because he always sat by the fireplace.
Yeah.
And his little crutch would be hanging up as a momentum, as a memory,
yeah,
to the Cratchits. To the Cratchits.
Yeah.
And he even, Bob Cratchit, not in the adapted book, but in the original, he even invited Scrooge to his Christmas feast.
He did, yeah.
His Christmas dinner. And he's already refused his uncle, his nephew. He already refused to go around to his, and he said, would you like to come? And he just scoffed at him, more or less to say, well, what could you afford to put on your table?
Why would I be seen with you?
Exactly.
In our lives and many of our chatted lives, we grew up with that is the greatest form of connection to fellow human beings. Come to ours, have a cup of tea and something to eat.
Exactly.
Dinner, whatever. We share. It's that Scrooge was saying, nah. What if
well, he didn't want any of it because he thought that he would have to spend money. He really thought he'd have to spend. If between Cratchit and his uncle and his nephew, he thought that he'd have to spend money to go to those little parties, so to speak, to celebrate Christmas. He thought he'd have to, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what you've got, as he says, what's going to happen to Tim? Now, this is where his conscience is pricked.
Yes.
It's pricked. Because he's already seen through Marley, the links. But he takes no notice of that. He really doesn't. Albeit Marley shows him, the people who if they both ignored through all the lives, through the lives of greed. And then when you get the likes of this fella, the future ghost, and what he shows him are two children.
Yes.
Two children of want.
Yeah.
And beware of them. But beware of this boy. So the want is, I really thought though, when I was reading it, that this particular ghost was threatening him. Beware of the boy. Beware of the want. What do you think?
It's hard now, as you described before. It's hard to separate the movies, from the actual book, which is in modern age. But I always got that this is the threat of what will be if you don't change your ways. This is what will be. And with the children, I just saw it as a reminder to him that you walked by this poor, impoverished, skeletal child in want.
But he's never seen it. Albeit he's seen it visually. He's totally ignored it.
Yeah.
So he's blind to it.
Yes.
He's actually blind to the fact of poverty, to the fact of his own nephew, to the fact of his own worker, Bob Cratchit. Yeah. He's just blinded by it all. And this is where the likes of Tiny Tim has pricked his conscience.
Yeah.
And by the time this fella shows up, this ghost, and he's telling him about these two children. These are of men. These are you. And want is him. Because he wants more.
Yeah.
And he won't give it out. He's keeping it for himself. He's just keeping it for himself. Let's suppose he doesn't change. Right, let's be hypothetical. Right. And he dies. Would he leave a will?
No.
And if he did, exactly, but if he did, would he leave his nephew anything?
It's hard to say, isn't it? He's shown absolutely no sign of
that he'd give him anything, simply because he actually accused him of getting married. He said, "You married? What do you want to get married for?" This is in the book, by the way.
Yeah.
What do you want to get married for? This is on the unabridged one, by the way.
Yeah.
Why did you get married? Meaning that the girl he married was below the station of him.
And also the girl will take off. What do you want to...
Exactly. You can't feed yourself on love. This is what he was saying. Love doesn't pay your rent or, give you money. Love is cumbersome. Love is a burden. This is what it's all about as well, is love. The only love he's seen and gave was to his sister. And when she was taken away from him, that was it. No more love at all. Even his girlfriend, there was love, but as soon as she went, well, the love was gone.
Yeah.
And that's why he had to go at his nephew.
Yeah.
And, you can't say, is there a love story in it? Of course there's a love story in it. There's lots of love in it, believe it or not. There's the love of his sister between him. There's the love of his nephew and him.
Yeah.
There's the love of, that girlfriend. There's the love of his nephew and his wife, his young wife.
Yeah.
There's lots of love in it.
Yeah. And the Cratchit,
go on.
The Cratchit family, who are
exactly. That's what I was just
bonded with love. They're all doing absolutely everything they can to keep together in love.
So do you think anyone had followed that theme of love in reading the novel? Reading the story?
Wow. It's
bypassed, isn't it, really?
It is bypassed because obviously the loudest noise in the book is the absolute horror of this individual who glorifies and loves money more than humanity. No.
So we see what these people are saying.
Yeah.
Chat. Paulie says, good evening. Good evening, all, Frank and Anthony. Very interesting episode. Thank you. Beats watching their TikTok, which I never have. I've never heard this type of in-depth analysis of a classic. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Paulie. Also, Jason says, if I had the choice, and in brackets, and the ability, close brackets, to illustrate a book, I'd go for War of the World or something by Jules Verne, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. War of the Worlds was there in my mind, as was The Invisible Man. But I think visually Dickens does it every time, and also, like Frank said, a great William Blake.
Wow. There's my old professor there. It's got a big long name there. Pablo shouting at the Irish Sea. Wow, I'll get a chance to watch later, Frank. Irish doc from Leahy, 89, 92. Long time. Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Oh, wonderful.
Isn't that great? He's tuned in.
That's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Yeah.
Oh, what a man. What a man. It's great fella. There's our friend Johan as well. Frank, could this be said about A Christmas Carol? When a capitalist comes to terms with his contribution to the decay in society, it turns to socialism in political terms. Thanks very much for stealing me thunder, Johan. We're going to get Johan, aren't we? We're going to get him and kick his head in.
You've had it at playtime, Johan, yeah.
It is, though. It's get you that playtime. But it is. It's all capitalism, to be honest. Everything is capitalism. And this is the turn. But we haven't come to the end yet. But what we're saying, Johan, listen to him. Jason, I could draw the Invisible Man.
There you go. We'll go halves on that one.
Yeah, go out. So like, so like the Invisible Man. But what you've got here is this particular ghost, and this particular ghost is the worst ghost of the lot. Why?
Because he's reminding him of what he's thrown away or walked past,
Yes.
and reminding him or showing him what's in the future. A little bit of H.G. Wells in this ghost.
And this is what it shows. The two children. Now, you've got to understand why Dickens had these in. Now, don't forget what you said, that he was there, he was looking at these, the illustrations and said, I want these two children in.
Yeah.
Because these were the future. These were the future, the children. And what the story is saying, we cannot ignore children. These are the seeds of the future, and we're ignoring them. But it's also the message of, believe it or not, Anthony, is education.
Yeah.
We're not educating these people. Yeah. And at the time, you've got to bring in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And the Industrial Revolution was started by us. But with education abroad in Europe, they were educating the children. We stopped educating children. So our Industrial Revolution was going behind the rest of Europe, especially Germany. Remember, I told you to ask Lainey, because she's an avid reader, and I've asked these on here as well, our chatters, to read Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Aurora Leigh.
Yeah.
Just read it. And that tells you about the education system in Europe compared to the education system here, which was non-existent. And that's why we fell behind the Industrial Revolution. And this ghost is saying, you've got to look at these. These are the future. These are the wants. It's not just the wants of wealth or anything. It's the wants of, it's everything. It's education.
Yeah.
It's the whole lot. And this is where people, just go, oh, isn't that sad? But they're not thinking about education. They're not thinking about anything. They're just thinking about those poor children there. Who are man, by the way. Don't forget he says of man. These are the children of man. And as I said, with Tiny Tim, his conscience was pricked. And now we're seeing these two children. But it envelopes everything that's not there for them. All through greed.
Yeah.
Don't forget as well, the elite were the only ones to be educated. And they just carry on with the greed.
Yeah.
There's no, even if you, I don't know. I just don't know anymore, because when you look at education, there was no education until the Forster Act of 1870.
Yeah.
1870, when, this Forster Act says, children can go to school. But kids never went to school. They had to play out. or beg or do whatever.
Well, then
They don't know anything. Sorry, go on.
you have the other dilemma or the problem that children were put straight in the mills,
Of
in the
course.
in the chimneys.
A little black thing among the snow crying, weep, weep, and notes of woe. That's the parents. You know, they're not going to send them to school while they could earn some pennies.
Yeah.
And themselves earn pennies as well. You know, so it's hand to mouth. This is what I keep saying. It was hand to mouth. And this is what Dickens was saying.
Yeah.
It's a children's future. We bring our kids up because we know, like, you know, about the future. We want them to have a good future. This is what I've always taught.
Yeah.
And you know, my own daughter Francie, she's bringing her children up the same way, you know, because she's thinking of their future.
Of course.
And it's great, rather than, you know, what you see today. And you could easily go down a wrong path.
Yes.
And this is what Dickens is saying there. It's absolutely crazy, you know. And there's where you have, you know, where you come to the end. And he realises, but what he sees, when the ghost walks away, because he does fear this particular ghost, and when he walks away, what's he holding? Scrooge. What does he see?
In this scene, or
not in this scene. In the scene, as the you know, if you go back, what does he finally see as he walks away, and the children just dissipate into thin air? What then is he left with? Well, okay, I'll try and put it my way anyway. Whether you agree with it, I don't know. Felt like Frank Sinatra then, my way. What I mean is, he's left now, and he's looking at a tablet. He's looking at a tablet, and it's his own tombstone.
Yes.
And what he's thinking is, and don't forget, his conscience now has been pricked. And he's thinking, I'm going to leave nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave nothing. And I should have done it a long time ago. Yeah. His conscience has been pricked. And it was that conscience that saved him from dying.
Yeah.
The conscience saved him from dying because it had been pricked. And it was only pricked because of Tiny Tim and those two kids.
Yeah. The future.
The future. And he's seen with his conscience being pricked, he's seen no future for anybody. He never even seen a future for his nephew. His nephew who had the traits of his sister. He never thought about that until now. Until now, he's seen the traits of his sister in the nephew that he's ignored for years, that he blamed for her death.
Yeah.
But her death signified that life goes on and love goes on.
Yeah.
But he totally ignores it. Go on, I'm sorry.
When you're faced with your own mortality.
Exactly.
And what have you done?
Exactly.
Who cares about what you've done? Who in your life, who around you, cares if you live or die?
Yes. And that's what a capitalist society is today. That's all it is. Capitalism.
Count the pennies.
Count the pennies. I'll just be a little bit political here. I'll give a fine example. We owned oil. We owned our own gas. We owned our own electricity. We owned everything. And people were, especially in the 50s, it was the decades of, albeit that there was a war going on, in Korea. Then they had the Suez Canal incidents, So, there was something going on, but it wasn't as vicious or anything like that as the Second World War. So now it was a decade of peace and love and entertainment and bright lights and everything, because it was so dark in the 40s. It was so dark. Rations now it disappears in 1954. So it was a decade of reconciliation, redemption, and everything really, and everybody seemed to be happy. Everybody. Because, you could afford to have your bloody lights on all night if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could afford to have, albeit that there was coal fires, but at least it was cheap, if you know what I mean.
But
And
this
was cheap.
Else, if you had some money, you bought more coal.
Exactly.
You bought bread from the shop. So it's just that.
I remember going to shops with my Auntie Mary, and she had this big army bag. Not me thinking about it. It was a big green thing, and it was from the war. And she said, "Come on, Francis, going for the rations." Still calls it rations then.
Yeah.
So I used to go with it, like a big soft kid, and well, I wasn't a big soft kid, but anyway, I used to go with her, and this was the decade. It was just a decade of peace. Albeit that I mentioned 2 wars, it was a decade of peace.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and then it was a decade of what we owned. Then what happened in the 60s, the 70s? Everything was sold off, and the 80s, everything, and this is why. The privatization, again, capitalism came into the fore in this country.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it's from what Dickens did in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
He got rid of capitalism, and he brought in, as Johan said quite rightly as well, socialism. He became a socialist. He became fair to everybody. He had the likes of, he actually paid so that little tiny Tim could have a quality of life without using a crutch. And he had an operation, he paid for it. He gave us, he even made Bob Cratchit a partner so that his family would never ever struggle. And also he helped his nephew as well.
Yeah.
So he became benevolent to everybody, and everybody loved him simply because from what he was to what he is today. And that's a benevolent man who benefited everybody. And this is what you see there.
Yeah.
People smiling and laughing, and there's little tiny Tim.
Yeah.
But that's not Scrooge, That's Bob Cratchit carrying him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you see that particular illustration, you see an old lady on the right, and she's, she's so sad for the child. Have a look at it. And you see the little girl in front, with her hands up to her mouth saying, oh, because he's carrying him.
Yeah.
A little boy like her size, her age. It's a fantastic illustration, because you see the sadness of the girl next to the old lady on the extreme right.
You do, yeah.
She's just looking. But you see a gentleman behind them who's happy for little tiny Tim, and his dad felt Cratchit because he's carrying him.
Yeah. Yeah. And a general infectiousness of happiness.
Yes, it's as simple as that.
Yes.
And sadness. All in one. It's the juxtaposition between happiness and sadness.
Yeah.
All in one illustration. It's fantastic, isn't it, really?
Oh,
that's what it's all about.
Work of genius, the whole. And did it get the message across to the wealthy yet? I think it did a little. And I know Dickens was a great fundraiser for lots of places, Great Ormond Street Hospital, and
yeah. I'll tell you who else is. Rudyard Kipling. And do you know the last post at Menin Gate? The last post is played every single night, including Christmas and New Year, every night. And that's all because of the estate from Rudyard Kipling, because he paid for that. He wanted the last post played because of his son who was killed. And remember this poem? If any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied.
That's a continuation of what we were talking about with Blake's anger at children being used for work when they were not of an age to do it. And obviously in Rudyard Kipling's case, it was for children as young as 14 to sign up to go to war and be killed. But because their fathers would sign a piece of paper and say, yeah, no, he's all right, he's got my permission to do it.
And when you see, we're saying that. And when you look at the likes of, as you said, Kipling and Dickens and even Elizabeth Barrett Browning with that Aurora Leigh, they're highlighting everything that should be done for the children. And as Johan says, at least he realised his mistake. Unlike certain billionaires who want automated robots to replace the human race. Yes.
And they're still counting their pennies.
Yeah, still counting them.
Yeah.
While we suffer.
Yeah. And the other book that you mentioned earlier, which too draws on the plight of children and the lack of education, which is Charlotte Bronte.
Absolutely. Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
And it's the plight of children. And the plight of children, no education, you see. But as I mentioned, the Forster Act, 10 years later, you had the Mandela Act. And that made that children had to go to school a compulsory, or you could get in touch. That's why they had a school board set up. And you had fellas walking. I always remember I was I was playing football in the square. And never forget this. But I was 16. I must have looked younger than my age. Honestly. And this fella came up to me and he went, why aren't you at school? I said, because I'm at college. He said, and he didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. I said, what up? He said, no, you're at... And he actually brought me up to the house. And she said, he's off, he's up at there. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But you had these school board people going around making sure that you were in school. And that was when I was young. Now today, you can't bring your kids. Say like you had a couple of kids and you wanted to go on holiday, but you wanted to go on a cheaper holiday rather than the July and the August when kids were off. Yeah. So you go in the May or the June. Yeah. You could get fined. You could be in a lot of trouble if you take your kids out to school.
Absolutely. Even though you can't afford the July and August, and you say, well, if we get away the week before, we can afford that.
Yeah.
Whether it be a caravan park or whether it be Marbella or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you're depriving kids then of some, like, getting away from everything. But mind you, but that's the way the education system was then in the Dickensian period, even before then, as you know. Even women, who came from a privileged background, if they went to university, they never got their certificates. Do you see what I mean? I know it was ridiculous, but a male got a certificate to say, that's what you've got. There's your degree. And a woman didn't receive it until the 20th century. It's just crazy. Women were second-class citizens.
Absolutely. We too would stand on a soapbox and raise a hat to people like Anne Clough. Liverpool,
Yeah. Newell College, yeah. Cambridge. And she opens it up for ladies, for women. But you've also got Blackburn House. And believe it or not, Blackburn House up at the Georgian Quarter, that was the very first grammar school for girls in the whole of the country. And there was the Holt, the merchantmen who opened it up for them. I'm talking about maritime merchants, by the way.
Yeah, but even so, that's a great point. In that's kind of an Ebenezer territory.
Yes.
We'll give some. Frank's going to give 500. I give 500. Whatever, and then you open these glorious buildings.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Again. Yeah. So as you said about Anne Clough and opening up at a college, it's fantastic what they did.
Yes.
It's fantastic what they did. The likes of Anne Clough, an incredible person, this lady from Rodney Street.
Yeah.
And, women, albeit don't forget that these privileged people, they had governesses to go in and teach the kids. But women couldn't go to university. And as I said, anyone who went to Newell, that Anne Clough opens up, albeit that they did a degree, they never got the certificate. And Johan says almost like they wanted them to be qualified enough to work, but not enough to think for themselves. Where have we heard that before? Exactly.
Right now.
Exactly. You know, it's okay working down a mine. And I'll never forget what Churchill said in Tonopandi, you know, about Tonopandi coal miners. And there was a big cabinet meeting in 1910 and said, these miners, coal miners are on strike in Tonopandi. Why are they on strike? Oh, you know, they're starving. They can't feed the children for a week. You know, they can't feed for a whole week. They're on that much of a pittance. And Churchill said, so they're starving? He said, yes. He said, well, fill the bellies with lead. That's what kind of a fella Churchill was.
Oh, yeah.
Fill the bellies with lead.
Yeah.
And don't forget, a year later, he sent up 2 frigates up the Mersey.
Yeah.
For the 1911 general strike. When we were on strike here in Liverpool. It's just crazy. It's a crazy world today. It was a crazy world then. It's not like we've come out of a thing. How can I put this? We've come out from a rebellious society where, you know, we did rebel. We did rebel. Now you can't rebel because you could end up in prison.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying rebellion. I'm talking about demonstrating, you know, where you could go out exposing injustices and you can go to jail for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just voicing the truth. It's that.
Have we into... But have we brought out the truth? Or is it just bluster, if you know what I mean? Go on.
I think there's so much bluster, and that's where it's hard to find the truth. But a lot of people are still trusting of the agents of news, TV, papers. That's where the truth is coming from. Even though it's proved time and time again that they lie for their own reasons.
See, the way we are, the way our societies are, is that, you know, you can read and write. You can say, you know, things. You could be viewed as a anarchist.
Yes. Yeah.
And that means it's only what Johan said. You know, you can work, but not enough to think for themselves. And we can't think for ourselves.
No. And there's also that unspoken and unseen shackles that we're all in of slavery.
One of the greatest quotes ever is by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a French philosopher. And he said, man is born free. However, he is everywhere in chains. And we're all in chains.
Yeah.
Every one of us. But also what you've got the Marley's ghost in chains. But they're chains of greed.
Yeah. They're self-inflicted.
Of course they are. And they don't mind that. As Stephen Mulholland says, an uneducated population can more easily be controlled. And of course they can.
Yeah.
Because you are blackmailed. You're blackmailed. And I know that sounds harsh, but we're all blackmailed into, because if you could easily go out of work for a menial thing, and this is where you're blackmailed. If you speak out of turn, you're gone. But that's bullying tactics.
Yes.
It's bullying tactics. And one of the great leaders, I'm not saying great, I'm saying like one of the great leaders of the world today is a president who bullies not just like ordinary people, but he bullies countries. And we know who that is, but I don't want to get into that. He just bullies countries because they don't like their presidents if they don't comply to that certain country's rules.
Yeah.
So they want a regime change.
Yeah.
And that's going against the sovereign country. And no one's saying a dicky bird about it.
No.
No one's saying nothing. And it's criminal.
Just criminal.
And that's how we're easily controlled, like my old mate Stephen Mulholland says. And Toscana, how ironic that it's a Labour government that's stopping us from giving an opinion unless it fits their narrative. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Toscana.
They're just a puppet.
And that puppet is us. Yeah. Again, as Stephen Mulholland said, the uneducated population is easily controlled. And as what Johan says, almost like they wanted them to be qualified enough to work. Because we are the workers, you see. But not qualified to think for yourself. Who was it who said the rich have an abundance of poor to control, really, isn't it? I forget who said it.
Yeah.
And Johan says he's going to claim a Nobel Peace Prize. Then starts a sentence with Maduro. You just say, look, he bullied Johan. He bullied the peace, the Nobel Peace people into bringing in that Machado. And he bullied them into making win the Peace Prize. And he'll bully them again for him to get the Peace Prize or nominated in January next month. And it opens up and closes in January. And he wants the Peace Prize. And this is why he's trying so hard to get but how can you have a Peace Prize when the likes of Gaza's going on?
No.
When the likes of the threat of Iran, the threat of Cuba, the threat of Venezuela, the threat of Colombia. And that means going in with all firepower. How can you be peaceful? That Machado, she begged the president to bomb a country. And she also tried to lead at least 4 coups d'etats. So how could that be a Peace Prize for her? Because she was bullied, not her. She was, the country was bullied into giving her the Peace Prize. It's just mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. And it's an extension from the miserly, Scroogely figures which is well exceeded Dickens's um, vision of what a horrible person would be. Now,
Yes,
wow,
yes, yep. So we've covered it tonight anyway. The A Christmas Carol, and there's lots of underlying themes with it.
yeah,
Lots of it.
yeah, and some of them will probably pop up over the next week or so as we're rambling.
Yeah. But we'll talk more about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I don't mind whatsoever, sir.
And what we'll do, we'll bring in others, the likes of the wonderful Charlotte Bronte
Yeah.
and Jane Eyre. We'll also bring in Blake. We'll
Yeah.
also bring in Aurora Leigh. I'll get an excerpt of Aurora Leigh.
Yeah.
And I'll read it out.
Brilliant.
It's a long poem, but I'll just get an excerpt of what she wanted, what this girl wanted. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And don't forget that she was in a wheelchair herself.
Yeah.
She was disabled. That's why I love Robert Barrett Browning as well, because he looked after her.
He did. He was a man of compassion, love, intelligence, and also it's about when you commit that pen to paper for someone else to read. It doesn't have to be flowery. Let's all pretend that everything is wonderful in the world.
No. I'll just get back to this one. And I think this is one. This is one of the most heinous things ever said to a group of poor people.
Yeah.
Right? And don't forget what the law of population demand. These were going out to demand the abolition of all the parish laws. Because, the parish laws, you got to pay, at least you got something off them, albeit it was a pittance. You got something. And yet these people wanted everything. No, don't give them nothing, the poor.
Yeah.
And as I said, Malthus, he just gathered around, and they all seen this fella in the cloth, if you know what I mean. And he said, gather around. And they were all sitting there. They were expecting food. They really were expecting food or something. And he starts off by saying, and I'm going to read it again. We grant you poor a right to exist, but only to exist. The right to multiply you have not, nor the right to exist as befits human beings. You are a pest, and if we cannot get rid of you as we do other pests, you shall feel at least that you are a pest, and you shall at least be held in check, kept from bringing into the world other surpluses, either directly or through inducing in others laziness and want of employment. Live you shall, but live as an awful warning to all those who might have their inducements to become superfluous. That's one of the most obnoxious speeches
It is.
I've ever read out.
Yeah, hate speech.
Of course it is. And as I said, the pest, as we do of other pests, That's cockroaches and rats. And that's how they were viewed upon. Shocking.
Yeah.
And Christopher says here, I recommend the Scouse Christmas Carol. It's not like the book or films, but really funny. It's on at the Royal Court. Yeah. I wish I could go and see it, but unfortunately, I can't. And Johan says, the Reverend Malthus talks like Michalowski. Yes, he does. Isn't it just? And his crew talk about the natives. Even hate speech inspires the new hate speech. Disgusting. Now that Michalowski, we all know who he is. The point is, they just celebrated the Americans' Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving was a bounty by the indigenous people.
Yeah. Based on genocide.
Yeah, they took the founding fathers, as they're being called, and well appreciated and admired and respected. They stole the indigenous natives' bounty, crops, everything, and that was in. They landed there in Cape Cod in 1620, stole the resources the following year, and because of the big bounty and the feast and everything else, they called it Thanksgiving. And the Americans today are having regime changes to steal the resources of other countries. It's never changed.
No.
And people don't realise that.
No, they don't.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you sit down, and even us over here, you can't but help notice. To all my American friends, happy Thanksgiving.
I never say it to anyone, and I know
to anyone. Oh my God! But you think, haven't you read a book?
Yeah. It's incredible. I've got a cracking one here. And it's called Trade and Plunder. I don't know where it is, but I've got it somewhere. And it's just called Trade and Plunder. And it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I can't even see it. Stuff comes out. But Trade and Plunder is all about, it goes right back, and it even goes back to the Irish. Brilliant. And, even these people who, the founding fathers, it goes to them. And when they were blown off course, as they was trying to get to Virginia, and they sailed, and they're blown off course, landed at Cape Cod, and that's where the Thanksgiving came from, because they was just starved anyway, the founding fathers. So they just went in and plundered all this, because they really thought that God had given them this land and all these crops that were grown by the indigenous native. And people think, that, the indigenous people just lived in wigwams. They lived in wigwams simply because they were thrown off the land by the white man. And so they had to move. They had to move in droves. And a wigwam was a tent that could be folded up and brought, to wherever they were going to rest. And it still goes on today, because if they find oil or minerals on a reservation, they're thrown off again. And it hasn't changed. And, they talk about democracy. It's incredible. I don't want American democracy. I don't want it.
I don't think there's such a thing. You know, and that's a great gift and also burden of history. Really, is that these things happened.
Do you know where Johan says the Reverend Malthus talks like Milakovsky? Do you know who he is?
No, you tell me.
It's Netanyahu. Because Netanyahu isn't an Israeli, he's a Pole. He's a Polish fella.
Oh my God.
What do you think of that?
As corrupt as everything else.
That's why he put it so subtly. And the outfield are Frankie and Anthony, hello lads. And all them say nothing for me, it's all for you.
That no, we share it. You know.
No, you won't. You're like that. You sit on the bench on your own in the park.
I am Ebenezer Anthony. I'm more a Cratchit, but
more a Cratchit.
Guaranteed, if I've had 4 or 5 of them, then I might forget to share the rest.
Do you know what? It's funny that of the outfield role. We'll get on to this. And it's showing. When immigrants steal lands and resources, then about 300 years later complain about other immigrants coming in, you know the foundation has failed. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants. And yet America was grown on illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
It's like that. No disrespect to the ordinary Americans, honestly, and the people we know, but when you look at that, remember I was telling you about the Santa Croce Church, and I'm sitting on a wall outside, and I'm talking to that elderly American couple,
yeah,
and he was, a retired vice president of a major bank. I'm sure it was that. No, it wasn't. Oh, what bank was it? He told me the name of the bank. And his son was, strangely enough, vice president of. Do you ever remember a thing called Rank Xerox, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
he was vice president, of that.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to go into the church to see it, the likes of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Dante, any of them didn't mean anything to him. So the likes of him, he was just being made up with Mark Twain and, other writers, American writers, because he wasn't interested in Shakespeare either, because it's how he came across.
Yeah.
It was boring, and it was raining as well.
I can buy better than that. There's that mentality you're up against, isn't it?
Yes, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Does the Christmas tree look all right? It's sticking out my head.
It does. Yeah, it does. Looks like a cute little hat. Oh, there it goes.
Cute little hat. But this is the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the way it is. It's the way life has evolved.
Yeah.
It's just evolved. around everything.
Yeah, and it hasn't evolved much, has it, in terms of capitalism? And it's all about more money makes me better, bigger, stronger. I'm already better than you because I've got X, but I get more and more. Oh,
And Toscana says, Anthony, his father was born in Warsaw, Poland. That's Michalowski, that's Mr. Netanyahu.
yeah.
Do you know? Do you know the new Wonder Woman film?
No, I don't.
No. Well, okay. Well, I haven't seen it either. And it's a girl. She plays Wonder Woman, and her name is Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. Gal. You know, Gal. Then
Yeah.
it's Gadot. 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 And she changed, from Greenstein to Gadot, and she was in the IDF,
Oh,
and she was in Lebanon on active service at the time that people were being shot dead. And you get lots and lots of, promoting a film and everything. And as I said, her name was Greenstein. And it's shocking the way these people are promoted.
yes.
Well, that's me, that's my opinion, and a lot of other people's, to be honest.
And what's eternally a reminder is this is a money-driven, immense organization designed to make and harness money. The film industry, the music industry.
Yes. See, you've only got to look at some people the way, well, a group of people. I always remember, I don't know whether it was, I think it was Soros. I think it was Soros who said, who was it? I've got to be right on this. Well, anyway, he said, when we're immunising people, we'll be immunising them with little chips, so that more or less they know, like the ID things, cards,
Yeah.
digital. Well, they'll just know where you are or who you are, everything. And I think it'll be for thoughts as well. Who was it? Was it Soros? I'm sure it was him. He's a horrible man. Just a horrible man. He's a globalist. He's a deep state neocon. And they just want to control the world. Not just control them, but control. You mentioned slavery there before. We're slaves now.
Yeah.
We are slaves no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. No, it feels like that.
And as Johan says, Gal Gadot is an IDF genocide Barbie. Absolutely. She is. And Toscana at Johan, when I see what's going on in the UK now, I can't agree to it. Illegal, unvetted men of fighting age. It's a Trojan horse in your face pushing Islam on us. Okay for men, but not for females. You see how the difference is with opinions.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to bring this in once, and I'm going to say nothing again. It's like football. It's like Liverpool Football Club. Even Johan's a Manchester United supporter, and it involves him as well. Because no matter what, football, as like Liverpool, the fan base is divided over the manager. And it was like Johan with the likes of Ten Hag. All the fan base was divided because, half of them wanted him out and half of them were saying, oh, give him another chance. And it's the way it is. Even with this Amarim now, it's the same. And it's like politics. Everything is divided, no matter what. I seen a young lad, I know about leather coats, and he had an Armani short jacket on. Fantastic it was. Armani. And it was more like less new. And he had a nice T-shirt on. He had jeans, modern jeans, and, these training shoes. He had those on. And he had a phone, which was more or less new, more modern than I've ever got. And he's talking to this reporter, and you just see him sitting down. He said, well, I've got to go to a building over there because they'll give me money to get to Leeds to see my family. And he said, well, how long have you been here? And he said, well, I came up with, one of the boat people or the dinghy people. You see, so I looked at him and I said, well, hang on, how was he dressed like that? How was he dressed like that? So he was an illegal immigrant. And I said the other night on my show, I said, and I do, Anthony, I do. When I go to bed and it's cold, you know how cold it is now.
Yeah.
And the wind was howling the other night, and I could hear the rain on the window. And I'm thinking, and I do every night think about these people who are sleeping in doorways.
Yeah.
I just think about them. And I'm lying here, I don't feel guilty. I really don't, because if I felt guilty, it could cause mental health problems. So, but I do care about them, and I'm saying I'm all warm and here and snug and everything else, while those people, poor people, are freezing.
Yeah.
They're actually freezing. And I think that. I just think that because I've got a conscience.
Yes, of course.
You get people, Anthony, who haven't a Scrooge.
Yeah.
Because his conscience was pricked.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. Well, Lainey or Katie, who go out on their journeys, wherever they go, certainly this time of year, if they pass a fast food place, the American kind of places, you will always see someone snuggled in to the driest spot outside. And Katie will just say to Lane, Mum, just stop the car, go in and buy a meal of whatever and go out, just give it to this person.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something here. When I was married, she was the manager of a big shop or whatever. And she used to go every morning. She used to walk down. This is in the middle of town, by the way. She used to walk down this alley by Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
And Owen Owens was on the other side down that alley. And she seen this fella every morning. And she always gave him something. Money-wise, because he was sitting there, like that. And every evening when she came out, because she never drove, she always just got the bus. Would have been a waste of time for her to drive down. You didn't know where to park anyway, in the middle of town. So she used to just go to the bus stop, move a bus stop, and get the bus home.
Yeah.
And, of an evening, she used to go here, give him something. Anyway, her area manager phones her up this day. And he said, listen, he said, I'm coming down to see you, but I'll be late. He said, I've been to other shops. He said, I'm sorry, but you're the last on the... So she said, okay. So she phoned me. And she said, listen, I think I'll be home late. I said, no problem. I said, do you want me to go and pick you up? She said, no, it's all right. She said, don't worry, I'll just get the bus home. I said, okay. Because we didn't live far from the bus stop anyway. So anyway, they did finish late, but it wasn't as late as she thought. So they shut the shop up and whatever. And the fella said, yeah, can I give you a lift home? She said, no. She said, the bus stop's just through there. You get home. Because he'd been out since 6 o'clock in the morning, driving around different shops around, the northwest.
Yeah.
So anyway, she came along. And what she seen, as she turned the corner, to go along by Owen Owens and Marks and Spencer's. Right, the old Marks and Spencer's, if you know what I mean. She seen that fella, and there was a woman, and she was bending down, and he was getting up, and he was folding up the blanket. You're not going to believe this. Folding up the blanket. She had the car. I don't know how she got it down there because it's illegal. And she had the car. And she put the blanket in the boot. She took the box or whatever it was with the money in. She put it in the back seat, and he got in the front, and she got in the car. The driver's side, and drove away. And it was a Mercedes car.
Yeah.
The point is, he was a professional beggar because he got done for it.
Yeah.
They actually arrested him.
He
was a professional beggar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how much did this fella, get of a day? And she said, you know what? He was good because he had like a growth. And he had like dirt on him. And she said, now I think, it was more like makeup. And he's sitting there like this, shivering. Even in the summer days. The summer evenings. Shaking. And he has his little box out. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we fall for the act all the time.
So you see, you've got professionals at it.
Yeah, you do.
You went to Toscana. Perhaps our government should stop attacking their countries so that they don't have to migrate. Exactly. Notice most of the illegals are from the ones the West is at war with. Well, I've said before, Johan, and you know that I've said this because I know that you've been commenting. It was a plan in 1999 by the Americans to go into the Middle East and destabilize the Middle East so that everything all the migrants would get out of the Middle East, and the only way that they could cross was either two places: one into the African continent, which they didn't want to go into, or into Europe. And they all went into Europe, and they wanted to destabilize Europe. And you've only got to look what's going on today. And that plan came to fruition. Everything is done with seeds are sown long before everything. Seeds are sown. It's not like you just wake up of a morning and go, I'll tell you what, I think I'll go and bomb Serbia. This is in 1999. NATO bombing Serbia for nothing. Killing loads of people. This is like any other. Well, this is our American friends. I call them a terrorist state, actually. Because they're the ones who just start wars with everyone for regime changes. And Johan says, Toscana, I've had to deal with the police regarding young girls, drugs, etc. I can't repeat it on here, but it's harrowing. The culprit said it was their right. The girls were easy meat. It's horrible. And again, she carries on by saying, they are not migrating for a better life. I was warned of this years ago by a friend from India. They are protected by the police and politicians. And that's the way it is. So we've gone from a Christmas Carol to harrowing stories. And indigenous people on Thanksgiving. And they celebrate Thanksgiving. It's incredible, isn't it? I've never thanked any American for Thanksgiving, you know.
No, I have.
Happy Thanksgiving, but you're getting people who do, but they haven't a clue.
We do. And at first I would say, in my ignorance, I didn't know what it meant, so I didn't say anything. And then when I did know what it meant, I thought, I'm not saying anything. Yeah.
It's as I said, though, Anthony, it's how different people interpret the truth.
Yes.
And Tolstoy, one of the greats, he said, history would be a wonderful thing if it would be true.
True.
Because of the propaganda, because of everything. Mm-hmm. And, you know, why does you bomb that place all day? Oh, go away, Ardy. Oh, well, that's all right then. And people believe that. People believe what's said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever see that? I thought it was hilarious. Jim Bowen, he was, a BBC reporter. Yeah. And you see him, and he's against like a crater. You think it was a crater, and he's got the mic and everything, and he's talking, and he's saying, we're being hammered here, we're the press, and we're being shelled, you don't hear anything, and then all of a sudden you see a woman coming around with a shopping. And she was looking at him like this. They're shopping. And that's how it was all exposed.
Phony.
Well, I knew that it was propaganda anyway, what's coming out of the press.
Yes.
It's just, that's the way it is, And the answer to Toscana, quite similar to the Afghani CIA agent who shot 2 DC. Yes? CIA? And Stephen Mulholland, my old mate, exactly, Johan. But immigrants are coming from Albania, which hasn't been invaded. I don't know what I don't know. I just don't know what affiliation we have with Albania. I just don't know. Can anybody tell me? You know, I think I'm an alright historian, but I can't go on anything about Albania, if you know what I mean. I could talk about, I don't like talking about Commonwealths, but I can talk about Commonwealth countries. I can talk about Italy. I can talk about France. I can talk about Spain and Portugal and Germany and Belgium and Liechtenstein. Everywhere else I can talk about, but I can't talk about Albania because I haven't a clue what affiliation they've had. And I'll tell you another country as well, Ukraine. I can't tell what they've ever done. And yet, there are 4.5 million children below the poverty line in this country. And there's no money for them. And there's no money for you. There's no money for me. There's no money for pensioners. There's no money for anyone. And they're trying to tax us. Well, you're getting too much and whatever. And yes, they can give £5 billion every year for the next 100 years because Soflad signed it to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that's the sad indictment.
Yeah.
That's the sad indictment. And Toscana says to Johan, why are young Pakistani men getting into Italy? I will always vote for and back Maloney to get them out. It's always the same religion, no problem with Chinese community or Hindus, etc. No, it's not. And that's what it all boils down to. But we could get into a mess here. I'll have to finish because that mess could get me into trouble. Won't get Anthony into trouble because he just says, who's Milovosk?
Frank Show.
Who's Gal Gadot?
I just carry the bags.
Come and visit me. It's the way it is. And tomorrow night we won't be talking about this. What will we be talking about tomorrow night?
Well, there's always a shadow of this that goes on. And that's why some of our great writers went to Italy to write, poets, writers, everything. But tomorrow we will be given a selection of hopefully meaningful poetry and background.
Would you mind if I, as I said, I'll look for a passage out of Aurora League?
That would be fantastic.
And I'll read it out.
Yeah.
I'll read it out because, in fact, I'll bring it in with me so I won't forget. Look how thick that is.
Brilliant.
Very thin paper. It was like, my old professor. Was it? Oh, he was on before.
Wow.
And he said, I want you to read War and Peace. I said, all right, because I didn't realise. War and Peace was like...
Yeah.
And I said, I had to go up and I said, I can't read that. There's no way. He said, no. And he just laughed because he knew I'd get right back to him. He said, no. He said, just write a piece on it. Just read a piece and write on it. Write about it. But say the chapter and, I said, okay. The chapters, So I read 2 chapters.
Heavy. I did start. I had every intention in the world to work through it.
That's good. was, you know, I do laugh about it. I really do, because if anyone was there looking at me, they must have gone like, I see his face. War and Peace on it. Especially when it come over, I can't read that. I'll just read a few pages, that's all. And that's it. And I wrote some. And I got a good mark, actually. It's just, let's see what Steve's saying. Johan says, CIA is going full throttle in the subcontinent. And we know where the subcontinent is. I watched a documentary about Al Capone and didn't know that he started food kitchen. I said that ages ago, Steve. I said that on one of my shows, that he started the soup kitchens. And he did help them to get jobs. And because what he used to do when he was going to his offices, you know, to talk about who to murder, like how to fight other gangs. And he's seen these people, you know. It was during the Depression, the Roaring Twenties, as it was called. And he said, he sat down and he said, we've got to help these people. So he actually bought, you know, like where shops had just shut down, only little shops. And it shut down because of the Depression. Well, he had them opened up, and he had them as soup kitchens. Al Capone. Isn't that great?
It is
and he
great.
did help them get jobs. Sorry, go on.
It is great, and again, it's silent history, isn't it?
Yeah, it's his silent history. Because all you see is Al Capone was a bad guy, as they say. You know, he was a baddie, and we're goodies, and we're going to get him. Yeah. You see what I mean? But they didn't. And you know what? There was no collateral damage with him, you know. What I mean by that, you know, when he went out and you had different gangs, you know, like shooting each other and whatever, and assassinations. And so they used to, but there was no collateral damage. You know, I think there was one girl who was shot. She was sitting in a car and, you know, bullets were flying everywhere. She was shot dead, unfortunately. That's collateral damage. But, you know, they were gangs at each other's throat. That's all it was. And territory. And it's like they were in Chicago. And the 5 families, Lucky Luciano, he came over, Charles Luciano, from New York. And he said, listen, Al, you know, we want you to join the families. He said, what for? You're in New York, I'm here, I'm all right. And he said, no, you know, we want, and he wouldn't join. And they ended up, it was those who said to Elliot Ness, he was a phony, Elliot Ness, by the way. I always forget this fella's name. He has an unusual name as well, but he was far better than Ness. Came to me then. But anyway, he got a message, and he actually got it off Meyer Lansky, because they couldn't nick Capone.
No.
They couldn't nick him. There's no way they could nick him, because they had nothing on him.
Yeah. Until
Meyer Lansky went and said, yeah, that's how you can get him. Because he wouldn't join the 5 families. He wouldn't join them. And, well, you know, what Capone thought was, well, you know, if I joined that, I would be getting nothing. I'd be giving them money for nothing. I won't be getting anything off them. And I'm in Chicago, there in New York. And anyway, Meyer Lansky, a little slip of paper. This is how to get him. And how they got him was on tax evasion. But, you know, they make a series, don't they, American.
Yeah.
That name came to me then, once again. And you wouldn't know him. I forget his bloody name. Oh, I forget his name. But he's far better than Ness. Ness was just like a scripted hero by Hollywood, unfortunately. Hang on, what was that? I watched, oh yeah, that's Steve Mulholland's. Yeah, he did. He opens up the soup kitchens. There isn't any affiliation with Albania. It's to do with the drugs trafficking, says Toscana. Same in Italy. Yet they're all there. You got Albanian mafia. And Toscana, oil and water doesn't mix. Grazie Franco, Anthony, your chatters. I'm going to watch one of a Christmas Carol films.
Oh, brilliant.
What's the Alistair Sim one? It's just like Sherlock Holmes. There's no one better than Basil Rathbone. But don't tell her what happens. What I mean, you know what we were talking about today.
Yeah. No.
Don't talk. No, you can tell her when she's watched it.
Well,
Anyway,
we dropped that in the week.
Yes, that's what I mean when she's watched it.
Yeah.
And Johan says the government was so inept that tribal gangs tried to maintain their power through community investment until the rail mob came around. Uncle Sam. That's very good, though. You're right. But they all went legitimate, didn't they? All the gangs. And you've got so much money laundering in this country. And believe it or not, the money laundering goes through barbers.
Yeah.
And you've got to understand who are the barbers. So that's for me tomorrow. And you. We'll do a few poems. If anyone wants to ask any questions about Dickens and the Christmas Carol, please ask. But don't forget, I've said this many times, you've got to read. I know our chatters have picked up a book and, and read. Unfortunately, you get a lot of people who don't bother. They just watch the film. And I'm talking about any book here. I'm talking about any sort of, how can I put it? I can't put it any other way. I'm tired, I know that. But I can't put it any other way, Anthony, that people, they won't pick up anything. They'd rather watch it on the TV.
Yeah. Because
these what you call soap people. The reality to them is soaps. They really believe in soaps and, real life. They think it's real life and it's not.
I think we've unfortunately put ourselves in that position through the TV because it's easy. You come home from work, you put a movie on, rather than you.
Why is that, Anthony?
I think, you know what, a part of me thinks it's going back to what we discussed before about the slavery of modern day life. It's escapism. You come in and that box in the corner of the room, everyone's room, goes on. And it's ease of that.
Thank you, Frank. Anthony, have a great night, everyone. Saw your UAP email, Frank. Made me chuckle all day. I'm glad I make someone laugh. I'm glad you've seen it. Some guy, Johan sent, you're not going to believe this, Anthony. We were talking today, weren't we, about architecture?
Yeah.
And there was 3 countries, and we're affiliated with what I said about Prague and the architecture. And you went,
Yeah.
Tom's just come back from there, you know, it's going to go again.
Yeah.
That's his lad, by the way. And he was made up with the architecture, wasn't he?
He was blown away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
It's just nice. It's so nice. And, you know, and there's Johan. He sent me pictures. He said, this place, I can't even pronounce the name of it, unfortunately. And he sent me these pictures, Anthony. Brilliant. Of, you know, in India.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, it's just the mindset, the genius of architecture.
Oh, it's a, when you want to look at this and go, where am I? You've only got to look at that. Look at that building there.
Yes.
The wedding key. And that goes right down, you know, to the ground. Right down. It's an incredible building. And it was built, you know, by Il Duce, Mussolini. And my favourite building's also in Rome. And it's called, believe it or not, the Pantheon.
Yeah.
And it was built 2,000 years ago by Emperor Hadrian.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then you go to Florence and you see the Duomo there.
It's forever inspirational, you know.
Yes. Yes. The lovely little Lambie. Good night, and thank you both for another brilliant show. Thank you, Ambi.
Thank you.
Little Ambi Dexter. Little Ellen. That's lovely, that. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow night. All well and good.
7 bells, I'll have the bags.
Oh. Do you know what? I think it's been, I don't know. How did you think tonight went anyway?
Well, I mean, obviously Charles took over the bulk of the show, which, you know, is right. First,
I mean, I'm wondering if Odette, she wanted it on. And I don't think that she stayed. I think she got off. That's twice I've done that.
yeah,
We've done it. Remember, who's the other one?
Poe.
Edgar Allan Poe and that girl, Effer, whatever her name is.
Yeah, but we enjoyed it. We would, if it was a subject or the person that we were not. I don't see us ever doing a program on Thatcher and Churchill and Queen Victoria somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's sad, isn't it? Someone recommends and doesn't even. It really pisses me off, I'm being honest.
Well, I loved it because, you know, I got to listen to your appraisal of where it came from. I'm totally bang on with that hate letter, you know, against war. So that was the background of him writing it.
Well, Toscana says, get onto this. Prague is on my bucket list. My cousin's just come back and recommended it.
Yeah.
How strange is that? Oh, coincidental, not strange.
Just gone. It looks absolutely beautiful.
And Toscana says, Zio Benito wasn't at all bad.
No.
No, I went to a place called Riccione and in Italy. And anyway, I got there because I was always saying, well, where's all these Lamborghinis and Ferraris and, Anyway, well, then the roads are too narrow, to be honest. So I went to Riccione. So there was a barman. He said, listen, go to Riccione. Got a coach there. Went up there because we were staying in a place called Cattolica, and Riccione was only up the road. So anyway, he gets there. Anthony, he built Riccione, Mussolini. You want to see it? It's incredible, unbelievable. And I've seen all the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, you name it. I've seen a lot, even Rolls Royces. Hence Riccione. It's incredible. And Johan says, Mr. Brown, forgot to send a few. Scotch.
Johan, Mr. Kindness, indeed. Thank you. Thank you. It will never go to waste for us.
And little Ellen says to Toscana, you love it. It's beautiful. That's Prague.
Prague, yeah. Yeah.
How coincidental that we were there talking about that, though, today.
We just talked about the beauties of architecture and how one thing inspires another. And when you mentioned Prague, and I said, no, our Tom's been there. He absolutely loved it. Just loved it.
It's incredible. But anyway, Mister, I'll just see you tomorrow night. God knows what we'll be talking about afterwards. But everything's gone tonight, and it's been great. It's been a great pleasure. As I want to thank those the sponsors of everything, and that was Got Painting Services. Please don't struggle if you're trying to paint or whatever. Don't do it. Get these lads in. They're fully insured. They're fully in time served. There's no cowboys about. Just get them in. Don't struggle. If you're an NHS worker and you're an elderly couple or an elderly person on your own, get them in because you get a special discount. And that's Gap Painting Services, the sponsors of every podcast that I do. Thank you. And Anthony, thanks. And
thank you, Frank, so much.
So, but we thank Jason because Jason's there and he helps us quite a lot. You know, he's a busy fella, as you know.
Yeah.
But who do we thank most?
We thank, from the bottom of our hearts, our beautiful chat family who tune in every night, every show, offer their valuable opinions, which we do totally take on board.
And what did I say to you today? I said there'll be all great people, great comments coming out, and then we'll go off on a tangent, which we have to.
And we do, and we'll always do that, you know. But that's just
that's it, isn't it? Well, anyway, it's just a thank them, the brilliant people.
Yeah,
it's Gap Painting Services. It's the wonderful Jason. It's you. It's me. But the most important people that we have to thank are these people, because without these people, the chatters, there'd be nowhere shows. Thank you, people. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Johan, last message. Also, apologies. I didn't get in quick enough to get rid of that. Yeah, don't worry. I banned them last time. The vermin crept in. Yes. No, Jason banned them. Can I ring you right away now? I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ring you within 5 minutes, okay?
No, that's great, Frank, yeah.
See you all tomorrow night. Anthony and myself, and God knows what we'll be talking about. Good night, people. Ciao.
Good
Ciao.
night. Thank you.